I had barely finished my college entrance exams when everything I believed about my future shattered in a single night. The party was supposed to be a celebration, but somewhere between the music and the laughter, someone slipped something into my drink. My thoughts became sluggish, my body refused to obey me, and before I understood what was happening, I found myself inside a hotel room with the boy I had loved since childhood. Ryan had been the center of my world for as long as I could remember. I thought fate had finally given me the chance I had dreamed about for years. He stood so close that I could feel his breath against my face, and despite the haze clouding my mind, my heart raced with excitement. Just as I reached toward him, glowing words suddenly appeared before my eyes as though they had been written in the air. They looked exactly like the pages of my personal journal. I regret everything. If I could relive this night, I would never let Ryan touch me. My heartbeat stopped. More sentences unfolded before me, each one written in my own handwriting. They told the story of a woman 30 years older than I was, a woman who had wasted her entire life loving the wrong man. She had turned down an elite university because Ryan convinced her to stay close to him. She married him, believing she had finally earned his love, only to discover decades later that his heart had always belonged to another woman named Vanessa. Even worse, when she became seriously ill, Ryan cut off the money for her treatment because Vanessa's son needed financial help. His apology came only after it was too late to save her life. At the bottom of the final page one sentence stood alone. "If you ever have another chance, push him away before he destroys everything." My entire body trembled. Those words felt more real than the room around me. They carried the weight of decades of heartbreak that somehow belonged to me, even though I had never lived them. Ryan smiled, completely unaware of the storm inside my head. "What's wrong?" he asked softly while placing a hand around my waist. "You invited me here. You don't have to be shy anymore. I'll take responsibility for you." The old me would have melted hearing those words. Instead, I stared at him as the diary continued floating before my eyes. I saw images of hospital rooms, empty cribs, lonely anniversaries, and endless tears. Every dream I had ever imagined with him ended in betrayal. Gathering every bit of strength I had left, I shoved him away as hard as I could. He stumbled backward, staring at me in disbelief. "What are you doing?" he demanded. I couldn't answer. My throat burned too much to speak. I rushed into the bathroom, locked the door behind me, and turned on the cold shower without taking off my clothes. Ice-cold water poured over my body, washing away the drug little by little while my tears mixed with the water running across the floor. Ryan pounded on the door. "Open it. You were the one who asked me to come here. Don't play games with me now." His voice sounded irritated instead of concerned. Every word made the future diary feel more believable. When I finally unlocked the door, he was standing outside holding his phone. Before he hid the screen, I caught a glimpse of the messages. He had been texting Vanessa the entire time. He immediately locked his phone and forced a smile. "Don't misunderstand," he said quickly. "I was only asking Vanessa what to do because I was worried about you." I looked at him for several long seconds before quietly replying, "Ryan, I don't love you anymore." His confident expression disappeared instantly. "What?" he whispered as though he had heard another language. "You've chased me for years. You can't suddenly stop." I simply walked past him toward the exit. He grabbed my wrist before I reached the door. "Stop pretending," he snapped. "You dressed like this because you wanted me. You should be happy I'm even willing to be with you." I slowly removed his hand from my arm. "No," I answered calmly. "I should be grateful that I finally know the truth." Without another glance, I walked out of the hotel and into the cool night air. Every step felt lighter than the one before. Sitting on a bench outside, I opened the university admission website on my phone. My application still listed the nearby state university as my first choice, a decision I had made only because Ryan wanted us to stay together. My fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before I deleted it. Then I searched for the admissions office of Westbridge University, the prestigious school I had once rejected. My hands were still shaking when someone answered the phone. "Hello," I said, taking a deep breath. "My name is Emily Carter. I'm calling to accept my early admission offer. I'll be attending this fall." The words felt unreal, yet for the first time all night, they also felt right. I ended the call and closed my eyes. Somewhere inside me, it felt as though the woman who had spent 30 miserable years regretting this moment had finally been able to breathe. The next person I saw was Daniel. He had always been quiet, respectful, and somehow managed to stay out of every high school drama, yet everyone knew his family owned one of the largest companies in the state. Before I could greet him, Vanessa hurried toward him with a satisfied smile, wrapping both hands around his arm. "See," she said loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I told you Emily checked into a hotel after the exams. You kept insisting she wasn't that kind of girl, but now you've seen the truth with your own eyes. You should finally stop wasting your feelings on her." Daniel gently removed her hand and ignored her completely. Instead, he walked straight to me, his expression filled with concern instead of judgment. "Emily," he asked quietly, "are you all right?" I looked into his eyes, suddenly remembering another line from the mysterious diary. Ryan had only approached me that night because he wanted to eliminate any chance Daniel might confess his feelings. Ryan had never been protecting me. He had been protecting Vanessa's happiness. Before I could answer, Vanessa stepped between us and pointed directly at me. "Don't let her fool you. She spent the night throwing herself at Ryan. She's completely obsessed with him." Something inside me finally snapped. 30 years of someone else's pain echoed in my heart. Before I even realized what I was doing, my hand flew across her face. The sharp sound silenced everyone around us. Vanessa stared at me in disbelief, one hand pressed against her burning cheek. "Listen carefully," I said, my voice steady despite the anger boiling inside me. "I did nothing wrong last night. If you spread another lie about me, I won't stop with a slap." Before Vanessa could respond, Ryan came running from the hotel entrance. The first thing he did was rush to her side. "Emily," he shouted furiously. "Have you lost your mind?" He stood protectively in front of Vanessa as though she were the victim. "Apologize to her right now. She only told the truth." Daniel's expression darkened. "What truth?" he asked coldly. Ryan pointed directly at me. "Emily drugged herself just to seduce me. She begged me to sleep with her. Vanessa only told everyone what happened." Daniel shoved Ryan back so hard he nearly lost his balance. "Watch your mouth," Daniel said. "Emily already told us nothing happened." "I believe her." Ryan frowned, clearly annoyed that Daniel refused to side with him. Vanessa's eyes immediately filled with tears. "Daniel, why won't you believe me?" she cried. "She's soaking wet because she just left the hotel room. Isn't that obvious?" Ryan quickly softened his voice while placing a comforting hand on Vanessa's shoulder. Then he turned back toward me. "Emily," he said, sounding almost patient, "stop making this difficult. I'll take responsibility for everything. Stay here with me. Forget Westbridge University. Go to college nearby instead. We'll get married after graduation." A week ago those words would have sounded like a dream come true. Now they felt like a prison sentence. The glowing diary pages appeared again before my eyes. I saw myself years older, exhausted after 2 heartbreaking pregnancies that had both ended in tragedy. I remembered reading Ryan's confession. He had caused those losses intentionally because he couldn't bear the thought of having children with anyone except Vanessa. He had looked into my dying eyes and told me that marrying me had simply been the price he paid to keep Vanessa happy. Every promise he ever made had been nothing more than another lie. My knees suddenly weakened under the unbearable weight of those memories that technically did not belong to me, yet somehow felt painfully real. Daniel instinctively caught my arm before I could fall. Take your time, he whispered. You don't have to face this alone. Ryan's face twisted with jealousy. He yanked me away from Daniel. She's with me, he barked. Mind your own business. I ripped my arm free before he could tighten his grip. Ryan, I said firmly, there is no us. Touch me again and I'll call the police. He stared at me as though I had become a stranger overnight. Emily, what happened to you? He asked quietly. Yesterday you said you'd never love anyone but me. I almost laughed. Yesterday I had believed he loved me too. Yesterday I hadn't known my future. Daniel stepped between us, forcing Ryan to back away. Leave her alone, he said. Then he removed his jacket and gently placed it around my shoulders. I'll take you home. I appreciated the kindness, but I shook my head. Thank you, I replied softly. I'll be all right. I walked away without looking back. For the first time in years, I wasn't following Ryan. I was leaving him behind. When I finally reached home, my mother immediately noticed my soaked clothes and worried expression. She rushed over with a towel, asking what had happened. I couldn't tell her about the impossible diary or the future I had somehow escaped. Instead, I forced a smile and lied about getting caught in heavy sprinklers on the way home. She believed me, but I could still see the concern in her eyes. After taking a hot shower, I sat quietly on my bed until my phone vibrated. It was a voice message from Daniel. Emily, he said, sounding almost embarrassed, I accepted my admission to Westbridge today. I hope, maybe, we'll be classmates again. I stared at the screen for a long time. So Daniel had been planning to attend Westbridge all along. Suddenly everything made sense. Ryan had desperately wanted me to stay because he knew Daniel and I would end up at the same university. He had never been afraid of losing me. He had been afraid of losing control. I didn't reply immediately. Instead, I looked out my bedroom window toward the dark sky and realized something extraordinary. For the first time since I was a little girl, my future no longer revolved around Ryan. It finally belonged to me. Graduation morning should have been filled with excitement, but the second I stepped through the school gates I knew something was terribly wrong. Students who usually greeted me with smiles suddenly fell silent as I passed. Others whispered while staring openly in my direction. Some laughed. A few quickly looked away when our eyes met. My stomach tightened. I unlocked my phone and immediately understood why. Someone had added a fake account to the senior class group and uploaded a video. The preview image alone made my blood run cold. It was footage from the hotel room. With trembling fingers I opened it for only a second before closing it again. There I was, clearly dazed, barely able to sit upright, reaching toward Ryan while struggling to speak. The recording had been edited to make it appear as though I had willingly thrown myself at him. Around me the comments grew louder. So the perfect class president wasn't so innocent after all. No wonder she chased Ryan for years. I guess this is how desperate she really is. Every word felt like another knife, but instead of breaking down, I dialed the police. I had already decided the night before that if anyone tried to destroy my reputation, I would fight back. While the call connected, I heard Vanessa's cheerful voice behind me. Ryan, tell everyone the truth. Was Emily really worth all the trouble? Ryan laughed just loudly enough for the nearby students to hear. Honestly? If she hadn't practically begged me, I wouldn't have bothered. His friends burst into laughter. One of them joked that at least now Daniel would finally stop chasing me and focus on Vanessa instead. Another congratulated Ryan for sacrificing himself to keep the two of us apart. My anger disappeared so completely that I almost felt calm. I turned around and looked directly at Ryan. You're disgusting, I said. His smile faded for only a second before he grabbed my wrist. You heard the jokes, he said nervously. Don't take them seriously. You know I'm going to marry you eventually. Everything I do is for us. No, I replied, pulling free. Everything you do is for Vanessa." Before he could answer, Daniel appeared beside me. Without saying a word, he punched Ryan so hard that he staggered backward. The courtyard instantly fell silent. Daniel's voice remained controlled despite the fury in his eyes. "Did you post that video?" Ryan wiped blood from the corner of his mouth but said nothing. Vanessa rushed toward Daniel, trying to grab his arm. "You've misunderstood everything," she pleaded. Emily wasn't forced. She stopped speaking halfway through the sentence. That hesitation told Daniel everything he needed to know. He looked at her with complete disappointment. "So she couldn't even consent," he said quietly. Nobody laughed anymore. I raised my voice just enough for everyone nearby to hear. "I already called the police. That video isn't gossip. It's evidence." Several students instinctively looked down at the phones in their hands. "If you've shared it, downloaded it, or forwarded it, don't delete anything. Investigators can recover deleted files, and destroying evidence only makes things worse." Fear spread across their faces much faster than gossip ever had. 20 minutes later, Detective Laura Bennett arrived with 2 officers. She spoke briefly with the principal before addressing the crowd. Anyone who had viewed or distributed the recording was instructed to surrender their phones for examination. One by one, students who had spent the morning laughing suddenly realized they might become part of a criminal investigation. Watching them panic gave me no satisfaction. I only wanted my name back. Daniel found me sitting alone near the auditorium after the officers finished collecting statements. He didn't offer empty promises or dramatic speeches. Instead, he simply asked, "What do you need?" That question nearly made me cry. "I need whoever uploaded the video to be identified," I answered. "The fake account has to leave a digital trail." He nodded. "My family's cybersecurity division can help your attorney once the legal requests are filed." "I already hired one," I replied. Earlier that morning, before leaving home, I had contacted attorney Rebecca Lawson. The diary had taught me exactly what happened when I stayed silent. This time I refused to become someone else's victim. That evening I finally told my parents most of the truth. I didn't mention the impossible diary or the future memories, but I explained the party, the drugging, the hotel, the recording, Ryan's manipulation, and the police investigation. My mother cried quietly while holding my hands across the kitchen table. My father didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he stood up, walked into the hallway for several minutes, then returned looking calmer than before. "Tell Ms. Lawson whatever she needs from us," he said. "We'll fight this together." The following evening Ryan arrived at our house with his parents. His father spoke politely, calling everything an unfortunate misunderstanding caused by immature teenagers. He insisted Ryan had a bright future that shouldn't be ruined over one mistake. They even hinted at a financial settlement if we agreed not to pursue the case. My father listened without interrupting. When Ryan's father finally stopped speaking, my father looked him directly in the eyes and asked one simple question. "What future did your son leave for my daughter?" Silence filled the room. No one answered. Ryan stepped toward me after his parents walked outside. "Emily," he whispered desperately, "we can still fix this." I never wanted things to get so serious. I looked at him with complete indifference. You don't get to destroy someone's life and then call it a misunderstanding. He reached toward me again, but this time my father stepped between us. Ryan lowered his hand, turned around, and quietly left the house. A week later the school disciplinary hearing began. Ryan arrived with an expensive lawyer and the same confident expression he had always worn. Vanessa came separately, her eyes red as though she had rehearsed crying all morning. Attorney Lawson calmly placed several folders on the conference table before anyone else could speak. Digital records had traced the anonymous account directly to a secondary email connected to Vanessa. The metadata showed that every login matched messages she had exchanged with Ryan throughout the night of the party. Even more damaging, cloud backups had preserved deleted conversations neither of them realized still existed. One message read, "Tell him Daniel is on the way." Another asked, "Is everything ready?" The final one simply said, "Tomorrow everyone will see." Ryan's lawyer argued that the messages proved nothing by themselves. Rebecca Lawson smiled slightly before sliding another document across the table. "Fortunately," she replied, "this is only the beginning." The investigation moved far beyond the school's authority. Hotel security records confirmed that I had entered the building confused and barely able to walk. One employee remembered helping me find my room because I kept asking for directions to the same place over and over again. He had written a routine incident report that night without realizing how important it would later become. More digital evidence followed. The cloud backups revealed conversations proving that something had been mixed into my drink before I ever arrived at the hotel. Vanessa's messages showed she had coordinated everything, telling Ryan exactly when to come because the drug would only work for a limited time. Those discoveries changed the entire case. What had first appeared to be harassment became a carefully planned crime. The police expanded the charges, and several students who had enthusiastically shared the video found themselves questioned as well. Some admitted they had forwarded it to multiple group chats simply because they thought it was entertaining. Others insisted they had not realized they were spreading evidence of a crime. None of those excuses erased the digital trail. The school released an official statement acknowledging that one of its students had been the victim of criminal conduct and promising full cooperation with law enforcement. My mother printed the statement and quietly placed it inside a family photo album. She said she wanted proof that the truth had finally been recognized. A few days later, Vanessa asked to meet me outside the administration building. She looked exhausted, as though she had not slept in weeks. The confidence she once carried had disappeared completely. She apologized through tears, insisting she had never expected everything to become so serious. She claimed Ryan had promised the video would only embarrass me enough to make Daniel lose interest. She admitted she had only wanted Daniel to stop looking at me and finally notice her instead. I listened without interrupting. When she finished, I simply said, "You tried to build your happiness on the worst night of my life." She broke down completely and grabbed my arm, begging me to believe she hadn't meant to destroy my future. Then, without realizing it, she confessed that she knew exactly what had been put into my drink before the party and admitted Ryan had followed the original plan they had discussed together. The moment she let those words slip, her face turned white. She realized too late that my phone had been recording our entire conversation. I sent the audio file directly to attorney Rebecca Lawson before I even reached my car. That recording became one of the strongest pieces of evidence in the investigation. For months after graduation, the criminal trial finally ended. The courtroom remained almost completely silent while the judge read the verdict. Ryan was sentenced to 6 years in prison for participating in the drugging, exploiting my vulnerable condition, distributing intimate recordings without consent, and deliberately attempting to destroy my reputation for personal gain. Vanessa received 5 years for organizing the drugging, planning the release of the video, and manipulating witnesses during the investigation. Both were ordered to pay financial damages and were permanently forbidden from contacting me again. Every university that had previously accepted them immediately withdrew its admission offer. Ryan looked at me as the officers placed handcuffs on him. His expression was no longer arrogant or confident. It was empty. Weeks later, my attorney forwarded me a letter he had written from prison because he was legally prohibited from contacting me directly. He apologized repeatedly, blamed Vanessa for influencing him, claimed he had genuinely loved me somewhere beneath all the lies, and begged me to remember the happy moments we once shared. I read the letter only once before placing it beside the mysterious diary. Almost immediately, new words appeared across the final page. He apologized again. Then another sentence slowly formed beneath it. But this time I wasn't dying while reading it. I smiled for the first time in what felt like forever and gently closed the diary. My parents drove me to the airport at the end of summer. My father checked my suitcase 3 separate times, pretending to worry about the luggage when all he really wanted was another excuse to delay saying goodbye. My mother hugged me tightly and whispered, "No matter how far away you go, this home will always be waiting for you." I finally understood what those words meant. In the future I had seen, I spent 30 years slowly losing my family because I had devoted my entire life to someone who never deserved it. That future no longer existed. Westbridge University was everything I had imagined and more. The campus was enormous, intimidating, and filled with opportunities one once believed I had sacrificed forever. Daniel was already there when I arrived. He never pressured me to talk about the trial or asked me to relive painful memories. Instead, he simply walked beside me. We studied together, explored the city together, argued over assignments, laughed during late-night coffee runs, and slowly built something that felt steady instead of overwhelming. One evening as colorful autumn leaves covered the campus paths, he smiled and said, "I'll wait as long as you need. Some things are worth waiting for." For the first time since the party, I laughed without forcing it. Months passed, and the diary continued to change. Every terrible future I had once read quietly disappeared. I stayed behind for Ryan. Gone. In its place appeared, I chose my own future. I spent 30 years without speaking to my parents. Gone. Replaced by, I called home every Sunday. His apology came when I was already dying. Gone. Instead, the diary simply read, "His apology arrived too late to matter." Eventually every page became blank except one final sentence written in soft, familiar handwriting. "If you ever return to that night, push him away." Beneath it, lighter than the rest, another line slowly appeared. "You already did." I carefully closed the diary and placed it inside a small wooden box together with my university acceptance letter. Neither object controlled my future anymore. They had simply reminded me that one courageous decision could rewrite an entire lifetime. As spring arrived, Daniel knocked gently on the library study room door holding 2 cups of coffee. I smiled, stood up, and opened the door without looking back, because the future waiting for me was finally one I had chosen for myself.